let's start the interview. Yeah, so the questions are the same as the one that I emailed you yesterday.
Hmm.
But okay, so for people who don't know who you are, can you do a quick introduction?
Well, I'm Gayle Statton. I'm currently the BC and Yukon director for Canada Soccer Board of Directors. It's a volunteer position. I just recently retired as I advised on a long career at ICBC. I'm married with three daughters and some grandchildren, and have a long sport history, both as a player but also as a builder, administrator, etc.
And also I heard that three of your daughters also play for CMF too.
They
Now I'm curious, how did your journey with Coquitlam Metro Fort actually started?
Well, I mean, obviously, my journey through soccer started as a player. I was a pretty good player and played varsity soccer and, premier and first division and all those things before I had kids. And so soccer has always kind of been my favorite sport, even though I played many other sports. And so, of course, it's normal to get your kids in sports. And so our kids started playing soccer early. Um, and, coached them for a lot of years. And then, various things happened where I was kind of involved in volunteerism and not. And then, probably around, I don't know, early 2000s, I took a coordinator position for an age group in Coquitlam City Soccer. And
Mhm.
then just kind of moved up through there and, into the vice president position and eventually into the president position, and then into the merger with Metro Ford Soccer Club to form Coquitlam Metro Ford.
Can you tell me like how did this merger actually came to be? Like these two clubs came to be?
I think, through some really good strategic planning. I mean, I was very lucky to be involved and lead some strategic planning through Coquitlam City Soccer. And, I don't know what they were doing on the Metro Ford side, but part of that was to hire, part of those objectives were to hire a marquee head coach. And so therefore we were lucky enough to get Dominic Mobilio for years to be kind of the club's first, head coach technical director.
Mhm.
I think just he really started the conversation about, the success of both of the clubs, but the diversity of the clubs. Coquitlam City Soccer was had huge numbers, very good financially. The financial structure was very good. The infrastructure in the club was very good, but not necessarily really an identity on the field.
Mhm.
And Metro Ford Soccer Club had a huge identity, but I would say, probably some wavering, volunteerism, people wanting to step up to really take that club to the next level. They didn't have a girls program, well, a full
I see.
girls program. So, there was a lot of really good pros and cons to both of the clubs. And, we just started the conversation. I'm not gonna lie, it was very heated, it was very controversial, people were shocked
Mhm.
that we were even thinking about it just because the clubs were so different in their approaches.
Mhm.
But, with some perseverance and I think some people that were able to think higher level and think in the long term rather than just immediately, we were able to get it done, but it was not without some hard work.
Mm. It, it's quite amazing actually that you mentioned that one of the clubs used to not have a female program, and now CMF is probably one of the clubs in the province with probably the highest success rate in terms of like developing female soccer players.
Sure,
So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's and I think soccer is very much an equitable sport. There is as many, at least initially, girls playing as boys. Unfortunately, that drops out a little bit into the teen years, but
Hmm.
it's predominantly a pretty good equitable sport for sure.
Hmm. Now I'm a bit curious now. I kind of want to dig a little bit into your history. You mentioned you played multiple sports,
I did.
right? Like, so what makes soccer stand out compared to like the other sports that you played?
I as a player, I just enjoyed it a lot more, than I did other sports that I played, and, I think for my kids, I think it's one of the reasons we put the kids in is I think from a fitness perspective, it's one of the best. I think from a The cost perspective, at that time, it was one of the best. When my kids started playing at Coquitlam City Soccer, it was $50 to play soccer, so you know what it is now.
Mhm.
And you know what I just love about soccer is that, it's a whole bunch of people trying for the one objective, which is to win, but, just the bringing together of, all the different positions to try to meet your objective is pretty great.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And it's a
Okay,
beautiful game.
it is, especially with the World Cup coming up next year. I
Yes,
think,
sure.
yeah, yeah, I'm definitely very excited. I'm originally from Indonesia,
Ah,
and
okay.
yeah, we are a very soccer fanatic country. Unfortunately, we just got knocked out from World Cup qualifications.
Oh, it's too bad.
Yeah, but it's okay. World Cup is still coming to Canada next year, so I'm very, very
Yeah,
excited.
yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, so the next question I want to ask you is, okay, so were there specific people or moments at CMF that helped shape you path, your path in soccer leadership?
Yeah, there has been a lot, and I mean, Dominic Mobilio obviously stands out as a key one, just because I think the club was great before he came, but he just made the club really that much greater.
Mhm,
And he had a fabulous way with people, and he had a fabulous way with kids.
mhm,
And he is the epitome of family, and therefore I think, I do believe that Coquitlam Metro Fort is a family. And so he really drove a lot of change and a lot of interest and a lot of excitement in the club. So he's definitely one. Um, after Dawn passed, I mean, we were lucky enough to get Sarah and Alfredo, and both of them, I think, are just great people.
mhm.
Um, there's a mixture of, paid people and not paid people, but I think their heart is in the right place. They love this club, and I think that shows. Dave Jones, he would be another one. Alex Barnettson, Brad Leach, Phoebe, Andrea Maloney. I mean, those are people I think that stand out for me as the blood, sweat, and tears of this club, through and through
Mhm.
years and years, and I think will always be a part of the club in some way.
Yeah.
And, they've all showed up so well, and some of them have volunteered many, many countless hours. Some of them, like I say, get paid, but regardless, I think that, their hearts are in the right place, and I think they really do love this club, and I think that shows.
Yeah. I think when I first did my interview and I was talking to Sarah and how she mentioned that she played she played from the club when she was younger and then played for your Team Canada and then still involved to the club until today. It really shows that there's like almost like a heart to this club that continues on to generations. Even today, her daughter Lacey just scored for like the under 17 team for Canada.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like continuing that legacy. It's amazing to see, and I feel kind of like someone who's quite new into like community soccer. I feel these are like really amazing stories that we should really really highlight. So yeah.
Yeah, Coquitlam Metro Ford, the strategic planning, when I was leading the club, we drove out the Soccer for Life moniker,
Hmm.
the brand, and it was something that I'm really proud of.
Yeah.
Because you can see this in this club, they develop, they retain, they,
Hmm.
resource, they spend money, they bring people back into the club for different roles, and I think that's a huge sign of success.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So the next question is, you had such an impressive career in soccer governance from working at CMF to BC Soccer and then Canada Soccer. So, what inspired you to take on those leadership roles?
Like to be in charge, so that's
Mhm.
one thing. I'm also a really hard worker, so I'm not one to just suggest a lot of things and then not be there to drive through and support people and try to get the best of them. I've learned as much about volunteerism during volunteerism as I've given, and so I just think that every experience you have helps develop you as a person. And, I just have never shied away from leadership roles. I like to, get the best out of people. I like to see them drive change. I like to push. I like to stretch people. I like to see things happen, and I think, when you can do it the right way and you have something you're really vested in, like a sport, it could be music, could be all kinds of different things,
Mhm.
it's easy. It's hard, um, but it's easy, and so I do enjoy leadership roles, and I think that I have a lot of good attributes for leadership roles, and so I just
Mhm.
continue to keep moving on.
I see, I see. Oh, I'm also curious, like, to like all this like different soccer governing bodies. Like, in terms of like the difference in experience, what did you learn the most from like each of these governing bodies?
100% different. I've been at the club level, I've been at the league levels, I've been at the district level, provincial body, PSO, NSO. And every level is different. I think things are similar in that, you need good fiduciary responsibility, you need good governance, you need safe sport, you need, all the pillars. But every level is different, and of course, with our sport, we also have a different structure than other PSOs because we have CONCACAF and FIFA as our governing bodies, and so that
Mhm.
brings different elements, especially at the Canada soccer level,
Mhm.
much different than the provincial sport level. But, I think every level is important, and I think every level, deserves to have those good, concrete pillars in place and make sure that there's accountability and transparency all the way through.
Amazing, amazing. And now that after I feel like working like 30 years, you're now awarded with the BC Soccer Lifetime Achievement Award. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
So so what does the award mean to you personally?
It means a lot, and I'm super proud. I think any time anybody can win a life membership or lifetime achievement award, it means that, they've been consistently and, sustainable throughout a lot of years and have provided value. And I think that's the biggest thing is that, you can volunteer a lot, you can work a lot, but really at the end of the day, you got to provide some value. And I think I have. And I'm super excited about the recognition. I just,
Mhm.
when you're volunteer, sometimes it just feels like you can't ever do anything right. But sometimes you get these little nuggets of good recognition, and I think this is really a really good recognition to get a lifetime achievement award. So
Yeah.
I'm
No,
super
absolutely.
proud.
Absolutely. And then I think when
Mm.
Sarah told me about basically all your past work and reviews resume, it's like well deserved.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that.
Indeed. So now I'm curious. I know now that you're retired, but do you have in terms of like soccer or like the soccer world, are you thinking of like continuing in maybe being participating in the club or like volunteering, or are you just gonna enjoy your retired life?
Still on the Canada Soccer Board, which is busy enough, and I'm about halfway through my term, and so my term will end in 2027, and I'll make some decisions there about what I want to do. But I really do enjoy it, and being retired gives me more time.
Mhm.
I do have a lot of other interests, traveling, golf, my grandchildren, my family, and other things,
Nice.
but
Mhm.
friends. But I do really enjoy it. I do still think I provide value, and I am hoping to continue in some capacity for sure.
Amazing. Okay. So the next question I have is, what advice would you give to current Coquitlam Metro Fort soccer club players, coaches, or volunteers who hope to make a lasting impact in the sport, like you have?
Yeah, I would definitely say, being paid is great, but also doing things for your community and doing things for sport and not getting paid for it is also very great, and it's very rewarding.
Mhm.
And so, nobody, I think, should lose sight of that.
Yeah.
If everybody in sport was getting paid, we know how much sport would cost. And so, I love sport. I just don't love soccer. And so I think, my advice to people would be always to give back to your community, give back to your sport. I had really, really good experiences in sport, and that's why I have spent, I couldn't even tell you the amount of hours over 30 plus years, volunteering. And, I don't regret that one bit. And I think that, others, need to, continue to do it as well and continue to contribute their expertise and skills and knowledge, just because they want the sport to be better,
Mhm,
just because they want their community to be better and safer and have more opportunities. There should be no other reason other than that, and they will learn a lot. I mean, I get a lot of accolades for all the volunteer work I've done, but I've really learned a lot myself and developed myself a lot from volunteering as well. So it's a two-way street.
mhm,
I think people need to be curious. They need to be consistent. They need to be tough. It's definitely hard. I think sometimes, especially as a female leader,
mhm,
it's better now, but early in my career, it was predominantly all males. And,
mhm.
so you have to have some grit and determination, to you. And, a lot of the leadership skills I learned, on the soccer pitch and in other sport environments. So,
Mm, that's am
but the rewards are great. That's what I would say.
that's amazing. Yeah. Now I'm a bit curious about, I guess, like, your personal life as well. So, let's say if you could, like, turn back everything in the beginning of, like, your journey into sports, like, what advice I know you already gave advice for the people in our club, but what advice would you actually give your younger self?
Player
Sorry?
as a player or as a volunteer?
Let's say as a player.
Well, you know what? I would probably the advice I would give myself is that to keep pushing through. I mean, I think I could have gone to higher levels than I did. I had a family quite young, and so I think there were some opportunities that were missed for me. So I think I would have done that. Um, Obviously more patience. I spent a few times with a few cards that I probably shouldn't have had in different competitions.
Mm.
And I think that, I could have definitely been a little bit more sportsmanlike in some cases.
Yeah.
But, just generally, I think that, you know, I it's easy to do things when you love something, and so I think for me, I could have spent every waking moment on a soccer pitch, on a baseball field, on a volleyball court. It wouldn't matter what it was.
Mm.
European handball I played, and, we went to
Wow.
national competitions, and yeah, just, sport's fabulous. And so I would always advocate for kids to get out there and play. Play as many sports as they possibly can and try as long
Mhm.
as you can as parents, to not have your kids play just one sport.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like now now I'm more curious about, like, what sports you haven't played. Uh,
Not many, not many, not many.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so in terms for, like, seeing, like, community clubs like CMF, like, how do you think they will contribute for the growth in the game in the next decade or even, like, next year for the World Cup?
I just think, Coquitlam Metro Ford and many other clubs in the Lower Mainland are really great clubs. And what I love about Coquitlam Metro Ford is that, and I was as proud of this when I led the club as well, is that it has every level of soccer. There was a lot of people that might think we all we cared about was trophies, and that was farther from the truth, that it could be. We loved all the growth of Coquitlam Metro Ford. And, we had a Special Olympic team, we had adult teams, we had adult house teams, we have everything in Coquitlam Metro Ford. And, that alone was very, very, made me very, very proud. I think
Mhm,
there's many other clubs that are really great clubs in the Lower Mainland too. But as for World Cup and, I think, you know, you think you're gonna see a big uptick in registrations for World Cups, and sometimes it just doesn't come to fruition. I mean, I hope it does
mhm,
in 2026. But, I think it's just everything, like, make the sport better, keep it affordable, just
mm,
continue to drive success and have people come to your club to play the game because, like I say, you might get some uptick from World Cup, but
mhm,
and Coquitlam Metro Ford is, well known in the community, the work that they do for kids sport and just other things, kids, if they can't afford to play, they're gonna find a way to make them play, and I just think
Mhm.
all that community spirit, is really great.
Amazing. And I think you mentioned this a bit, but again, like I'm still quite new to the club, so I'm very, very curious about, I guess, what values or principles do you think that has kept this club strong throughout its history?
Well, I think one is soccer for life, and like I say, I couldn't be prouder, of kinda leading during that time and bringing that to life, the soccer for life. Because again, I think that, another thing Coquitlam Metro Ford does really well is they reinvest in their players and they get those kids to come back in and coach, and they get those
Mm,
kids to work in the academies, and they get people onto boards and into coordinator roles and doing various things.
mhm,
I think that's a big, big success right there. I think excellence. I think that that's a strong value for Coquitlam Metro Ford. You can't just be good on the pitch. You got to be good off the pitch too,
mhm,
and you have to have a good infrastructure in place, good policies, good safe sport policies.
mhm.
Money in the bank. Like you have to. This is a business. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not just a little community club anymore. This is a $3 to $5 million business and needs to be looking at taken seriously in that theme.
Mhm, mhm. All right. Okay, so Gail, this is all the questions that I have. But do you want to say anything, or do you want to say anything for the club?
Just I was very appreciative to see the write up in the newsletter. And thanks to Sarah and Lindsay for that. And it was very nice. And
Mhm,
yeah, I'm thankful to be recognized as somebody that drove change and the merger through Coquitlam Metroport and Coquitlam City Soccer. I'm super proud of
mhm,
that. And I always watch out for the club and try to go to games when I can and always hope for the best, because, I think it is a little bit of a family and you just, even when you move on, you don't forget all those great things that happened, so